All right, guys, we've already reached the end of Unit 2. This is the last skill. This one is 2.4, parallel, perpendicular, and skew. So this one is a little bit different from the other three that we've done, but it does fit into this unit because of the whole parallel line thing. So parallel lines, we've already talked about them a lot, but we haven't really talked about the fact that they're always on the same plane. Parallel lines have to be on the same plane. And so far, we've really only been working in a two-dimensional world, so they were always on the same plane. They were on your piece of paper, which is a plane. So kind of a new thing here. We're going to be working in a 3D world. So we have to remember that for lines to be parallel, they're on the same plane. And then the one that you probably already know is that they don't meet. So a couple examples, I would draw this cube in your notes, do the best you can, and then take another color and let's just kind of put on here a couple parallel lines or a couple sets of them. So we could do like line AC, and then we would have to pick another line that's on that same plane. So I just drew on the front of the cube, so we need to stay on the front of the cube. We need to stay right here would really be our only other option. So I'm going to just practice notation a little bit. I'm going to say line AC is parallel to line BD. And then let's do one more. Let's go like to the, I don't know, the bottom. Go on the bottom here. So if I did line GH, the line that would be parallel to that one, we have a couple options. We could do like the front here, okay? Or we could have done this guy on the top too, right? Because those two lines would have both been on that back plane. So CD and GH. GH is parallel to CD. And I guess we probably did have another option that went along with line AC. I think we could have also done line EG, now that I noticed that on the back there. Okay, skew lines. Skew lines are lines that are on different planes but never meet. And that's one that I don't know that you have talked about as much. I like this diagram here. I think it does a good job showing it. But line M is on kind of the left side of this. What would this be? This would be a triangular prism. We'll get to that later this year. But line M is kind of on the left side and line N is on the front side. And if you can picture that, those lines are never going to meet. It's impossible for them to meet, but they're not parallel. They're kind of, on a different side of the three-dimensional world. So that's why we call them skew lines. I'm going to flip back to this last diagram, and you don't need to write anything here, just listen for a second. But on here we also had skew lines. We could say like line AB was a skew line with line FH, right? They're definitely not parallel. One's going vertical and one's going horizontal, but they're also never gonna touch. Okay, so those would be skew lines. And maybe you want to add that to your diagram, but maybe that's just going to make it more confusing than anything. Okay, and then the last one is perpendicular lines. I think you guys know about perpendicular lines, but they do have to be on the same plane and they always intersect at a 90-degree angle. So an example of that might be maybe line CD and line BD. You can see that they come together here at a right angle, a 90-degree angle. So the notation would look like this. Line CD is perpendicular to line BD. Okay, and one thing that might come up, it's not a huge emphasis at all, but planes can also be parallel and perpendicular, not just lines, but planes can be as well. And I'm not going to talk about it a whole ton because I think there is some benefit of you guys figuring out a couple things for yourselves. But you could kind of picture like the front of the cube and the back of the cube. Those two planes are going to be parallel. They're going to go on forever in this really the same directions. They're going to go left forever, right forever, up forever, down forever, and never touch. And you could also have perpendicular planes. If you look at this cube in front of you, the bottom and the front kind of come together at a 90-degree angle, and they're perpendicular. So the same rules kind of go for perpendicular planes as lines. So I think the big thing, I think the only thing that is really new to you in this specific skill is this whole skew line thing. And what students always have a hard time with skew lines is remembering that they are on different planes. It is impossible to have skew lines on the same plane, because anytime you had two lines that weren't parallel on the same plane, they would intersect at some point. And the big thing was that skew lines never intersect. So hopefully that makes sense. As always, let me know if it doesn't, and I can totally come by and help you out with it.